And the owner of Savini fell in love with the Barbaresco 1961, and he bought 900 cases.
900
of it.
cases. Wine Spectator 曾评鉴20世纪的葡萄酒界最具影响力的人物有3位，分别是被认为是美国葡萄酒革命的先驱 Robert Mondavi 先生为首位，法国著名的葡萄酒生产酒厂 Baron Philippe de Rothschild 为第2位，他们也是法国5大酒庄其中一个很著名的酒庄。另外一位呢，当然就是意大利酿酒家族Gaja 的 Angelo Gaja 先生。今天我们要介绍的就是这个全球知名，来自于意大利 Piemonte 酿酒家族Gaja歌雅家族。Gaja 来自于呢意大利西北区有一个地方叫 Piemonte， 在 Piemonte 这个地方呢，他们是以生产最顶级的 Barbaresco 与 Barolo 闻名世界。在这个区域呢，他们用的葡萄品种呢，都是一个很著名的葡萄品种叫 Nebbiolo。要说他们是 Barbaresco 与 Barolo 这个地方的葡萄酒天花板，一点也不为过。Gaja 的 Barbaresco 呢与 Barolo 呢，年年呢都列于国际酒评家高分榜上，获奖无数，更是收藏家的珍宝。Gaja 融合了传统的创新做法，酿造极高的品质的葡萄酒，让 Gaja 的 Barbaresco 呢跟 Barolo 的这个葡萄酒呢，都站上了全球顶级葡萄酒之列，并由于 Gaja 极为著名的葡萄酒地块，而带动了当地对单一园这样的潮流，同时有远见的尝试多元的葡萄品种，并跨出了 Piemonte 这个产区，扩大了家族的事业版图，到了 Toscana 托斯卡纳，在意大利中部，甚至到了意大利最南部西西里岛。在这些的地区分别都有 Gaja 经营的葡萄酒庄，就像是在中部很有名的一个地方叫 Brunello de Montalcino， 它的酒庄叫 Pieve Santa Restituta 比圣瑞酒庄，还有在 Borgheri 的 Carmacanda， 然后呢还有在西西里岛的 Ida， 各自都出了融合 Gaja 与这块地区的魅力，令人赞叹的葡萄酒，也就是 Gaja 一直不断的酿造出来而给社会大众。今天我们邀请到了 Gaja 酒庄的第5代传人 Giovanni Gaja 来到了台湾，跟我们一起聊聊 Gaja 家族的故事与其葡萄酒的魅力。Hi Giovanni, welcome to Taiwan.
Hello, pleasure to be back.
I think everybody's so excited, especially the wine lovers and the fans of Gaja and the wine connoisseurs is so excited. I've heard over these past weeks that when people know that you're coming, they're so excited that the new generation, the 5th generation of Gaja is actually emerging and especially coming to Taiwan to promote the wine. So, as always, I think you should let our fans and the fans of Gaja to kind of know a little bit about Gaja, your family history, and maybe some little stories that you really cannot find on the internet.
Yeah. Yes, we are a family business.
Yes.
Gaja was founded in 1859 from my great-grandfather Giovanni Gaja.
Okay.
In the family, creativity is not our strongest fit.
Oh, no,
because since 1859, all the generations have been Giovanni, Angelo. My grandfather was Giovanni, my father is Angelo, I'm Giovanni. So next generation is very easy to guess.
So there's 2 names.
2 names. So the winery was founded in Barbaresco, in Piedmont, so northwestern part of Italy, in this little tiny piece of land called Langhe, where there are Barolo and Barbaresco, which are 2 very small towns that give the names to the wines, and where the king varietal here is Nebbiolo. The winery in 1859 initially was not actually founded as a winery itself, but it was founded as a restaurant. And Giovanni Gaja, the founder, had a small vineyard of Nebbiolo that he was cultivating every year. And then in the years that he deemed to be the best years, he was actually bottling the wine, and then he was selling it into his restaurant.
So your great-great-grandfather actually is a restaurateur.
Yes, started as a restaurant. It was called In Italian we say l'osteria del vapore, which means the steam restaurant, because below Barbaresco there is a river flowing that is called the Tanaro River. And in the 1850s there was a steamboat that was crossing from side to side of the river. So the steam restaurant because of
So the restaurant is actually located next to the river or close to the river?
No, actually it's in the center of Barbaresco, is where the winery today is located. Because then every generation dug a piece more of the winery and expanded the winery. By the beginning of the 1900s, most of the guests that were coming to the restaurant were asking to buy wine instead of eating in the restaurant. So we assumed that the food was not as good as wine. And so in 1912 he closed the restaurant and started to focus only in the production of wine. So that's how the history started. And then after that it's been 4 generations. The second generation was the generation of Angelo Gaja and Clotilde Rey. Clotilde Rey has been a fundamental woman in our family, but I have to say in general women have always had a very prominent role, not only in our family but in Piedmont in general, because they were the ones that were controlling everything.
You mean the women?
Yeah, the women.
No, not only in Piemonte, everywhere, the whole world.
Making sure that the husbands were running correctly.
Behaving.
And today it's still like that in the family, because I have my mother plus my 2 sisters, Gaia and Rossana. So the men in the family are completely outnumbered.
No, that's good. That's the truth.
So Clotilde Rey for us was an example. She was the one that started to give a different direction into the winery. She was the one that pushed her husband Angelo to increase the quality of the wines. She had a big influence on my father Angelo, on my grandfather Giovanni, and because of this she has been dedicated to wines. One is Gaja Rey, which is our Chardonnay that we produce in Barbaresco, where Gaja Rey is actually dedicated to 2 women of the family. One is Clotilde Rey, my great grandmother, and the other one is my sister Gaia, that was born in 1979, which was the first plantation of the vineyard of Chardonnay. The second wine is Soritildin, which is one of the 3 single vineyards that we produce in Barbaresco. It's a wine that came out in 1970, where Tildin is a nickname. Clotilde, Tilde.
So it's also your great-grandmother's nickname?
Yes, Tilde. Tildin. Whereas Sori is a word that comes from the Piedmontese dialect, and Sori in Piedmontese, they always indicate the most prestigious pieces of land, because they are the ones that are always exposed south. So the one that gets the highest amount of sun.
So the vineyard is facing south.
South, yeah.
坐北朝南, the vineyard facing south.
Yeah, Sori, because Sori comes from the word sole, that in Italian means sun. But Sori is dialect.
It means mountain. No, it means sun.
So it comes from the words, it's a derivative of sole, but then in Piedmontese it becomes Sori.
Okay, I understand.
Third generation was my grandfather Giovanni. My grandfather did a lot for the winery. He was, first of all, a believer, a true believer in Nebbiolo, because he believed in Nebbiolo and in the Barbaresco town, in the Barbaresco region, in the Barbaresco denomination, in times where nobody even knew of the existence of the Langhe region, and where Nebbiolo was not a variety that was popular as it became today. So my grandfather loved Barbaresco. The borders of his world were the borders of Barbaresco. If you were coming from the opposite side of the Tanaro River that flows just below Barbaresco, for him you were a foreigner. Not even Italian or Piedmontese. You were coming from a different continent. Because his world was the border of Barbaresco. For 25 years he has been the mayor of Barbaresco, which
I did not know that.
Puts it in perspective how much he loved the area.
So your grandfather is for 25 years mayor of Barbaresco.
And he did a lot for not only for the winery, but I think for the region in general. In between the 1930s and the end of the 1970s, he managed to buy some of the best vineyards located in Barbaresco. And he did that for almost 50 years without really having competition from anyone. Because at that time, there was no interest in buying land in Barbaresco. The few people that wanted to create something in the Langhe, they were going to Barolo, because Barolo in the past had a bigger reputation compared to Barbaresco. The Barbaresco for a long time has been considered the stepbrother of the Barolo, the wine that was less tannic, less ageable, less structured, less powerful, less in general compared to the Barbaresco. Today things have changed because I think with the climate change, with warmer climatic conditions, it's almost like the Barbaresco did a gym membership and put up some of the muscles that were missing in the past. So today there is a difference in terms of style, not anymore in terms of reputation, but it's almost like tables have turned, because today it's Barolo that is trying to chase the elegance and delicacy that usually you find in the Barbaresco. So my grandfather left us a big heritage, because the wines that we produce today, the blend of our Barbaresco, the single vineyards from Barbaresco, were vineyards that he purchased and that he left. He was a visionary, because in 1948, in his vineyards, he abolished sharecropping. So
what is that?
So sharecropping is a way of cultivating land that, to me, it's incredible that lasted for so long, because it's a medieval. It was created in the Middle Ages, and it was abolished in Italy with a government decree in 1968. So it lasted for almost 1,000 years. Basically, sharecropping means that I'm the owner of the land, and if I have 10 different pieces of land, I assign each one to a different sharecropper, to a different farmer. And the farmer cultivates that land for 1 year, and at the end of the year, what is produced gets divided. Part goes to the sharecropper, part goes to the land. But the problem of sharecropping is that it's not a way to produce quality, because the sharecropper is not awarded in producing quality, because it's awarded only in quantity. So the more he produces, the more he gets back at the end of the year. So in 1948, my grandfather shifted all of his sharecroppers into monthly paid employees. And this was a benefit for them, because they were receiving a salary, and their salary was not depending on how the year went. But most of all, it was a benefit for my grandfather, because he could decide how he wanted to work in his own vineyards, to really be able to create the quality that he wanted. In the 1960s, he started a philosophy that we still use today. That is a philosophy of not bottling all the vintages. Not all of our wines came out every year, but they come out only when we think that they can be the best vintages. And we still do it today, because our single vineyards, the pinnacle of our production, they only come out when they can be the best expression not only of the variety but also of the vintage. Doing it today still is a big sacrifice.
Yeah, because I know that your single vineyard is not produced every year.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a big sacrifice. But imagine doing this 60 years ago, when nobody understood or even knew Nebbiolo, when you couldn't give commercial visibility to the wines, and most of all, where you had a climate that was different, because it was a colder climate. It was difficult for Nebbiolo to always reach not even perfect, just decent maturation. So there were times in which my grandfather was keeping 2 or 3 vintages in a row of his Barbaresco. But he did that to make sure that quality was always a guarantee, and that we kept this also. We kept this philosophy also today. My grandfather gave us a lot of teachings. He is the one also that started to give visibility to the Gaja wines, to the Gaja brand in the Italian market, because in the 1960s he's the one also that started to work with restaurants. For us, restaurants are fundamental. 70% of our wines today are sold in restaurants, because it's a way for us to always give a visibility to the wines, to increase also the reputation of the wine. So in the 1960s, when he started to focus in restaurants, in Italy he didn't have a lot of clients. but had a few but very good clients. In 1964, he released his 1961 Barbaresco, and he was a very good friend with the owner of a restaurant called the Savini restaurant, which still is present in Milan. It's in the Galleria del Duomo in Milan, a very historic restaurant. And the owner of Savini fell in love with the Barbaresco 1961, and he bought 900 cases.
900 cases
and he put it in his restaurant. So that was important to give visibility, to place the wines in the right places, and so that started to give visibility and reputation to the Gaja wines in the Italian market. It was my father that started to give visibility in the foreign markets, because my father Angelo started to work into the winery in 1961. For 7 years he worked in the vineyards, and then he started to get more involved also in the winemaking of the wines. And then in 1974 he started, beginning of the 1970s, he started to travel outside of Italy, explaining the Nebbiolo variety and giving the history of this variety. And he started initially with 3 markets, Switzerland, Germany, and the US. And then today we export in more than 100 different countries. So it's been a gradual development. My father has always been a different thinker. If all the producers go in this direction, he goes in the opposite direction, because he finds value in doing things in a different way. He was the first one who introduced international varieties in the Langhe region. In the 1960s, when he came into the winery, he revolutionized the pruning on Nebbiolo to focus on less production, but to make sure that more quality also was always ensured. He is the one that expanded also the horizons of Gaja, because in 1994 he bought an already existing winery in Montalcino called Pieve Santa Restituta. In 1996 he created Camarcanda, located in the Bolgheriere on the Tuscan coast. In 2017 we started our latest project in Sicily called Idda on Mount Etna. And then actually in 2015 we developed a new project in Piedmont, located just 20 minutes away from Barbaresco, but 400 meters higher in altitude. The area is called Alta Langa.
So 400 meters, it's pretty high.
It's 650 meters of altitude.
650 meters altitude.
The name of the town where we bought the land is called Trezzotinella, which is part of the Alta Langa region, which Alta in Italian means high, because Alta Langa starts at 500 meters and grows all the way up to 900 meters of altitude. It develops south of Barolo and Barbaresco all the way down to the border with Liguria. And there we bought 30 hectares of land, which were covered with hazelnuts. We took out the hazelnuts, and then in 2018 we started planting, and most of what we planted is Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc, because we already have experience with these varieties. But then we also did some experimental varieties. So we have Riesling, Pinot Bianco, Timorasso, Erbaluce, also some local varieties. We created a brand new winery that is our new whites winery, because our Piedmont is white, so Rossi Bass, Altini di Brassica, and Gaia, in terms of vinification, have been moved into this new property. So in Barbaresco, only reds, focusing on Nebbiolo. In this new property in Trezzotinella, only whites. So we can give even further.
So the Altini Brassica, Vista Mare is all from.
No,
Vista Mare is coming.
Yeah. Okay. So Rossi Bass, Altini di Brassica, and Gaia. And the idea in the future is to merge together the production that we have in the Langhe region of our Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc, where we are a lower elevation, a little bit warmer climate, where we can get more structure and roundness, with the production in at higher elevation, where we get more verticality, more freshness, and more acidity.
Well, when you were saying that you were joking that your family is not so interesting and innovative, I don't agree with it, because actually your family is very, very innovative. Okay, so one of the things is I think your father was also one of the pioneer in terms of the international grape varietal, and one of them was Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a very premium Cabernet Sauvignon, and he named it Don Maggi. Why?